We're going to watch this video by Dr. Orion Terban, and I want you to watch this video in light of what we've discussed about how effeminacy, a man becomes effeminate when he prioritizes relationships over truth. In the Hebrew language, what we would say is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. When I say the fear of the Lord, a man's job is to fear the Lord, which means, if we were to put this in to a picture format, if you can imagine a mountain, and at the very top of that mountain, every person has a mountain in their life. And whatever is at the top of that mountain dictates everything that happens below that mountain. So for instance, a man who puts God at the top of his mountain, everything that he does down that mountain, whether it's business decisions, money decisions, decisions on parenting, on being a husband, on purchases, whatever it is, that relationship with God drives the decision-making process. Do you see what I'm saying? That which is at the top dictates that which happens below. So when you think about this in the marriage context, the same thing is true when a woman, it says that the woman is to fear her husband. It says that in the New Testament, that the woman is to fear. Now, some of them will say reverence or revere, but the word there is fear. So you have to look at this in context, that the woman is to put the man at the top of her mountain, and therefore all the decisions that she makes throughout the day are geared around the idea that her husband is at the top. And so everything that she does is in light of, is this in line with my husband's way of parenting? Is this in line with my husband's way of conducting business? The food that she buys, everything is in accordance with you because you're at the top of her mountain. Okay. So going back to God being at the top of the man's mountain, that a man becomes effeminate when he places the woman over God. He puts the woman at the top of his mountain. He prioritizes relationships over truth. And so what you'll see here, and this is absolutely true, is that many men, um, they really struggle when their woman is not operating the way that she gets sad, she gets angry, she's upset with the things that he says or the things that she does. And he points out some really good stuff. So let's watch what he says, and then we'll kind of like we'll break it down after that. So let's watch. Okay, so he points out something really good here. This is something that most men in marriage or in relationships struggle with, is they're uncomfortable with their significant other being upset, being angry, sad, disappointed. Um, that this is something that men have to overcome. You have to be okay. Um, I heard it best is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. As a man, one of the most important lessons that you ever need to learn is learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, because most of a man's life he's going to experience very uncomfortable situations, and he has to learn how to function in those uncomfortable situations and still make decisions and do what is truthful, do what is right, and honors God in the face of those things that are distracting him, that are uncomfortable. So for instance, let me just give you an example. Is This is very common for men who are married and have children, is the wife will get upset with some way that the man parented the children. She will try to parent the man parenting the children. And here's the thing. This happened a lot in my marriage, and I had to learn to overcome that fear of not putting my foot down and sticking with what I was doing and instead being like, oh, well, I don't want her to be upset, so I'll change what I'm doing so that she's not upset. And that is absolutely, that is not godly. That's effeminate. That's putting your woman above God. And the thing is you have to make decisions that she's not going to like. She's going to get upset. She's going to throw fits. She's going to pout. She's going to do all kinds of things. But you have to stick to your guns. And in the process of sticking to your guns, you have to make sure that you're not emotional. So when she comes to you and she wants to talk to you and she's like, I'm upset. I I don't feel like the way you're parenting the children, it's too harsh, it's too this. And don't explain yourself. You do not owe anybody an explanation. And by explaining yourself to people, and I'm not saying you need to teach her, you need to explain to her to some degree. You need to give, not explain yourself, but teach her what it is that you're doing with your children. For instance, in my home, I don't, my girls are not, they go to work with me because I own a business. They go to work with me, but they're not allowed to earn money, their own money. So they'll go to work with me, and when they want stuff, they come to me and they say, "Dad, can I get this? Dad, can I get that? Dad, can I get this?" Because I'm preparing them for marriage when they get married to a man and he's providing for them, and they need to go to him to for their husband to purchase things. This is training a child up in the way they should go. This is preparing them for marriage. Now, at first, your wife might get upset and be like, well, that's not fair. This is very common, especially because the consequences of teenage boys and teenage girls' actions are very different. If a teenage girl does something, it can impact the rest of her life, like sleeping around, getting pregnant, whatnot. But one of the things that I hear with men is that their wife will say, well, that's not fair that you're letting so and so do this, but you're not letting your daughter make money. She's not allowed to make money. And the simple answer to that is they're very different. You have to raise them differently. You cannot raise a boy and a girl as two individuals that are operating on the same level, because they're just not. And again, the consequences for both are different. But back to the parenting thing is that when your wife says, well, this really upsets me, or she gets mad at you, you have to just be okay with that. That it's not changing. And you do need to be able to teach your wife and explain to her, and not explain, but teach her that what you're doing, teach her what you're doing, so she understands from a biblical perspective, or from your leadership perspective, what it is you're doing. But then you leave it at that. And if she's like, well, I'm not okay with you, I, you know, I don't know what to tell you. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm going to do. And there's no discussion. Okay, there's no discussion, because what you're going to find is that your wife or your girlfriend or whatever it is, they're going to want to discuss things. They're going to want to talk. And that is how the enemy works, through dialogue, through the back and forth. Remember, where there are many words, there is much transgression. Okay, this comes back to the idea that she is emotionally built to dominate you with words. She will be able to weave stories and weave theories and weave emotions all around you before long. You're wrapped up like in a python strangling its prey. That's what happens when you engage in dialogue with a woman. And not only that, it elevates her to your level. Think about this. If you argue with your children, what you're doing is bringing them up to your level. A king should never argue and never have to explain himself to his children. The only thing you do with your wife is you teach her. It's not explaining, you teach. And you let her know, I'm going to teach you what it is that I'm doing here. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is the why behind the what. And again, that's so important in your marriage, is for them to understand the why behind what you do. But you're teaching her, you're not explaining it to her, because explaining to her is like a child explaining to their mother why they're doing something, or their father. That's not what you do. You come from a place of power and authority and strength, and you say, this is the principle, this is why I'm doing this, and I'm teaching you so that you understand what it is that I expect when parenting our children. So you're going to have to learn to be okay with her being upset with you. And one of the realities that I've explained to men, and is the simple fact that women's sexual marketplace value when they're younger, when they're in their late teens, all the way up probably 25, 26, in that range there, that's their sexual market value is the highest it's ever going to be. And the man, his sexual market value doesn't really increase until his late 30s and early 40s. That's he's starting to hit stride. And that's because he's learning all the things that I'm teaching you. He's learning these things. He's learning, his business is on point. His finances are on point. All these things, his maturity is there. The man becomes this powerhouse of strength, or he should. And men are hitting their stride, their ability to produce and generate revenue and capital is they're hitting stride in their 30s and 40s. So that's when a man's sexual market value is there. And one of the things that I stress is a woman understanding, and I've explained this to my wife, she doesn't like it, it makes her uncomfortable, but it's the truth. And they'll tell you, they'll kick and scream and tell you that it hurts their feelings, and that's not why I'm telling my wife. But I let her know that, like, hey, like, you should never want to create separation between me and you, because out in the world, you're sending me out into the world, and when you create separation between us, you're putting our relationship in jeopardy. That's why it says in the New Testament, it talks about, do not deny one another, because it lets the enemy in. And I'm not talking about sexual denial. What I'm talking about is a woman taking a man for granted and mistreating him and being at odds with him and fighting him. And then that man whose high value is going out into the world, and he's being hit on by 18, 19, 20, all the way up through 30s, 40s, 50s women that want a guy like that. It does hurt their feelings and it does make them sad, but it doesn't change the fact that it's true. And that's going back to this idea of sacrificing truth for the sake of relationship. That is feminine. So what you have to do is always keep truth at the top of your mountain, keep God at the top of your mountain. And you teach your wife, you explain these things to her. Hey, like, you should never want to create distance between us. You should never want the enemy to get some sort of foothold. And the truth of the matter is, scripture says that it's not unlawful for a man to look at an unmarried woman with lust. It says a married woman. This goes all the way back to the Old Testament. This is also, Jesus reiterates this in the New Testament. He says that looking at a married woman, not just woman, you need to go look at that word. It is looking at a married woman with lust in your heart is a sin. It's adultery, okay? So why would your wife want to send you out into the world in a state of constantly being antagonistic against you, or not being affectionate with you, or whatever, because you're going to go out there as a high value man, and the world is gonna be competing for your attention and your time and your money and all these things. So even though that bothers her, and she's going to tell you it hurts her feeling, and she'll say, well, you hurt my feeling, you made me feel this way. The truth is you can't make her feel any sort of way. People feel what they feel because they choose to feel that. And the truth is that as men, we have to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. The woman, the wife, should also work out her relationship in fear and trembling. Like, am I living up to my husband's expectations of me? Am I taking care of him in the bedroom? Am I feeding him the way he wants to be fed? Am I feeding his children the way he wants them to be fed? Am I a good wife to this man? And those are thoughts that she should have, and she should be uncomfortable. The man has to go through his life constantly, wondering and thinking, well, hey, am I living up to God's expectations of me? Am I fulfilling my role in life? Am I doing these things? Is my salvation in jeopardy? These things, this is things men have to deal with. And women aren't used to living like this, but the truth of the matter is that they're happiest, and you can look this up in the studies. Women are happiest when they're in a relationship where um the status their their status in the relationship is always on their mind. They're questioning, where do I stand with this guy? It's important. This is the idea of a woman adoring a man. There can only be one person who's adored and one person does the adoring. So there's the adorer and the adored. And it always works better with the woman being the one who adores the man. She's the adorer, the man is the adored. And this is the same way it is with men in the relationship with God. But going back to what we're saying here is you have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. You have to be okay with disappointing your wife. You have to be okay with letting her be angry about dumb shit. Like, it's just they get upset about dumb shit. And that's okay, but that's on her. That's not your responsibility to make her happy. That's not your responsibility to make sure she's always in a good mood and she's happy and she's entertained and all this and that. She's just going to have to learn to deal with these things. And it's going to create attraction when she sees that you're not bothered, you're not upset, and you're not scurrying around trying to make sure that her world has no problems in it. My wife gets upset about things, whether it's me or somebody else. And if it's dumb shit, like, I didn't, insult her or anything, then it's like she has, I'm not responsible for that. And you have to learn that too. You have to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, let her sit through her emotions, let her figure those things out. It's not your job to fix her in the sense of fixing her emotions and making sure that her life is padded and cushioned and she's protected from anything that might upset her or bother her. That's not your job. So, this is a great video, and we'll see you in the next one.